of questions that they have. I will go through a textbook with you. I'll give you a textbook, and you can see then for practice. You can do stuff in the house, and yeah, we'll just practice in the sections, and that will. I think that will probably you'll get a very good idea of how long it's going to take you or whatever. And yeah, if you can do that test for me, that would be great. So then I can see. Yeah, great. Perfect. If you can as well, send me your email, and then I can send you maybe an IELTS book before the lesson. Okay. All right. Yeah, it was lovely to talk to you, and I look forward to it. Okay. Yeah, I understand everything. It's good. Okay, take care. You too, bye.
Cup of tea?
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, we're live. We have one viewer. Hi. 2 viewers. How are you doing? Ah, they've gone.
That's okay. Keep talking.
So, my name is Andrew. Sean is right here.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Okay.
Professional.
And it's 12 o'clock, so we're just waiting. Ask us your IELTS questions. Have any of you taken the IELTS test before? So can anyone tell me the 4 parts of the IELTS? Listening, reading, writing, speaking. Does anyone know how long these sections are? How long is each section? Can anyone answer that? The listening. How long is the listening? Hi guys. How long is the listening part, guys? Hi guys, we have 3 people.
3?
Yeah. Got you a cup of tea.
Thank you very much.
So the question I'm asking is how long is the listening part of the test, just as a warm up?
You asking me?
No, I'm asking you guys. But
yeah. So how long?
Wow.
Computer. Yeah. So, did you introduce yourself?
No, I was waiting for you.
I've got to move over here. It's hard to get the room.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Sean?
Yeah. Well, my name is Sean, and it's lovely to be with you. And yeah, it's very exciting. This is my colleague Andrew. He wears glasses, even
for fun.
Yeah. You can't see anything right now. Put them back on.
Maybe speak a bit slower.
Okay. What are we doing today?
Yeah, so my name is Andrew and I'm an English teacher. I've been teaching for 7 years, and today we take your questions for IELTS to help you pass the test.
Yeah, and we get lots of questions, no?
Yeah.
A lot. So yeah, we've been working with the IELTS for a long time, doing different things. And yeah, this is going to cover general IELTS and academic.
Yeah.
So why don't we start off with one of the common questions we've been getting?
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of different ones, but I think I'm going to grab the questions that you put up. And for these questions about timing, you were saying, so how long for each section?
Yeah, so the listening is 30 minutes. And the reading, anyone know? The reading is 60 minutes. Writing, 60 minutes. And the speaking is about 14 minutes.
Did you put the mistakes?
Well, one question that we get a lot is in the writing. In the speaking, and the question is, what happens if I am in the speaking exam and I have nothing to say? Does this happen to you, Sean?
I think people ask this question a lot, no? I think they say, I don't know what to say. So when you say it like that, yeah, it sounds like a big question to answer. It could be like, what do I do with my life? This question is too big to answer, yeah? You've got to try and narrow it down. So I would say, let's look at an example, would probably be...
Yeah. Can I say hi, Fardauza? Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Do you have a question for us? Fardauza or Fardauza?
But if we give an example of, so were you talking about the speaking?
Speaking, yeah.
Yeah. So we were just talking with some IELTS students.
Museum.
Yeah, the museum question. So there was a question from a real IELTS exam, which was, talk about the last time you went to a museum. Maybe we can write that down behind. Yeah. So Andrew will write it down while I'm speaking. So with a question like this, you know, talk about the last time you went to a museum. So what do you say to this kind of question? I mean, there's lots of different things you can actually do. So straight away, you can think about, have you been to a museum for real? For, you know, truly, have you been to a museum? When was the last time? Maybe you haven't been to a museum for a really long time, but that doesn't matter. Really, what you could have been 20 years before, could have been a long time ago, it could have been last week, it doesn't matter. So you want to talk about something true. That's my main point, I think, because when it's true, it's much easier to talk about, because I think a lot of people feel like they have to be interesting in the test sometimes, and you don't. Obviously, what you really need to do is show that you can talk about a topic in English and you can express yourself very well. But if you have a question like, when was the last time you went to a museum? And your brain is already thinking about the English and how to speak in a different language, and you're also making things up, this is really difficult to do. So talk about something true for you. Now, so if you talk about, let's get Andrew to give an example. Let's put him on the spot.
Okay.
Andrew, talk, if you can, please, about the last time you visited a museum.
Okay. So I'm lucky because I went to a museum maybe about 3 months ago. It was called the Sigmund Freud Museum.
Sigmund Freud Museum, okay.
And I had to pay to go in because this is a private museum. It's not by the government or anything. and it's a museum in where he used to live, because he lived there for 1 year, but the last year of his life, because he had to escape Austria because of the World War II.
Right, so let's just pause for a second. So Andrew, I'm going to ask Andrew how he thinks he did.
Well, I haven't finished yet.
I know, but so far?
I think I'm doing brilliantly. No, because I think I'm speaking not too fast, not too slow.
Mm-hmm. Is this true for you? Did you actually go to the...
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
So, in some ways, you're purely concentrating on speaking. You're not having to worry about inventing or making things up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's easier.
I told you, I'm lucky that I've been to a museum.
Yeah, and he actually said this phrase. What did you say?
I said, I'm lucky because recently I went to a museum.
Yeah, 3 months ago. So let's have a think now. I don't want to stop you talking about the museum. It was obviously very interesting. Maybe we'll hear more about the museum later. But one of the questions we get is, what if I haven't been to a museum?
Yeah.
What do I say? And so basically this question.
Ask me.
So Andrew is now going to pretend. I just want to say something about this question, because obviously the museum question, but we had a student a couple of weeks ago, and the question was, talk about a book you have read recently.
Ask me.
Wait, just wait. I know he really wants to, Andrew loves to be tested.
Ask me about the book.
I will. But the guy turned around and said to us, why would I read a book?
Yeah, you could have asked me and I would have done it.
I know.
It would have been funnier.
I know, but you can do something else on the spot. You can improvise. So with this guy, what would you do? What would you say? I've ruined it.
Well,
you wouldn't say that.
I wanted to do the bad example. So the bad example. So ask me about if I've been to a museum.
Okay, so have you, can you talk about the last time you went to a museum, Andrew?
I haven't been to a museum. Why would I go to a museum?
Yeah. Is this a good answer?
Bad, right?
Yeah.
It gives you nothing to talk about.
I'm just writing.
Yeah, but the whole screen's moving.
I'm sorry.
Hi, everyone. Yeah.
I'm not delicate enough.
How do you pronounce your name? I don't even want to try, but hello.
Yeah, nice. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's a bad answer because why is it a bad answer? Because it doesn't give you anything to talk about then. It's killed the conversation. Why would I go? Why would I go to a museum?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in museums.
So how can you, if it's true that you haven't been to a museum, I mean, if you just turn around and say, why would I go to a museum? This is bad, yeah? It's aggressive and just shutting the conversation down. But if you say, okay, I haven't been to a museum, how can you use this in the speaking, Andrew? What can you do?
Yeah, you could say...
Why don't we do it? Okay, so Andrew, I'm going to give Andrew a question that maybe he can be true about that he hasn't done. So, you ready?
Yeah, could be
completely made up.
I've done a lot of things.
A lot of bad things and a lot of good things.
Yeah.
Do the bad outweigh the good?
That sounds like an essay writing.
Yeah. So I could say, talk about the last time you had a family reunion. So a family reunion is where maybe you haven't seen your family for a long time, and then you all come back together. It's quite a British or American concept, I think.
Okay. So I don't remember the last time I had a family reunion, but if I were to have a family reunion, then it would be very nice to see everyone, because I don't see everyone very often. Cousins, So it's very nice to spend some time with them in a relaxed environment.
So you could go on from there.
I think it's more difficult, yes.
But what did you try to do? What was the tactic?
I tried to talk about what I know about them. So if you've never been to a museum, you would just talk about what do you know about museums?
Yeah. Like, because even if you don't know, you haven't been to a museum, for example, we're in London, and London has how many museums?
10.
More than 10.
Okay.
A lot more than 10. More. Look it up. How many museums does London have?
It's probably 12.
It's probably 11 or 9, isn't it?
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, just to let you know, so we're talking about the speaking part of the IELTS exam. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat. We would love to answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, so far. And yeah, please send your questions in. Or if you have samples of your writing that you can type out and put in the chat box, that would be great as well. So the strategy is to make it about what you know, because you can say, well, I haven't been to a museum, but I know that in London there are many museums that I would like to go to. For example, there's the Tate Modern, which is a museum in central London near St. Paul's. It's a huge building, and it has a lot of modern art after 1900. Modern art would be things like Picasso or Deschamps or people like this. And it also has installations. So you can see here, I haven't been to a museum, but I am making it up. I am managing to talk about what I know about museums. And I could just do that. And I can speak very good English doing that. And I've accomplished the task set to me. I've answered the question. And I'm not making anything up. I'm also trying to stay on topic. Yeah.
There are 170 museums in London.
That is a fact. 170.
Over 170.
Over 170.
Aha, we have a question. Marley? How do I say your name? Marley. What are the basic topics we have to know? Is that grammar or phrases? There's no grammar in this test. No grammar.
No. So in this test, like you say,
thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. So it's listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Okay. So what does that involve? I mean, maybe we can do that. We can actually talk about.
Well, the question is, what are the basic topics we have to know? And is that grammar or phrases? So, great question. Basic topics, everyday life.
So, yeah, it depends what for, no? So, in the IELTS exam, the topics can be about anything that you would encounter in everyday English life.
Should we write on the general and academic?
Yeah. So, for example, if you're going to do, like I said, with the speaking, we had a question about culture there. It could be about family. It could have been about friendship. It could have been about something in politics. It could have been on the subject of science. Literally, it could just be about any topic. So, for example, give an example of, like we'll talk about the reading section for a moment of the IELTS exam.
Yeah.
Give me an example of some of the topics that came up in the reading. Yeah.
Well, there could be a train timetable in the reading. Since this is something that you see every day in an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
Part 2 of the reading would be about jobs and work. So this could be, the topic is work, and the reading would be a job, like a job contract, or a
Yeah.
offer for a job.
Yeah. If it's reading for the academic,
Yeah.
it will have academic topics.
Yes. Geography.
Geography, science, politics, economics, and yeah, things that you would encounter in an academic environment. So I think that's the key distinction.
Everyday topics for the general.
Yeah.
And academic could be more academic topics like science or humanities.
Yeah.
But what about grammar then?
So yeah. So if you think of the test as having sections, so 4 sections, basically grammar is a skill that you have to know to be able to work on these 4 sections.
Yeah, like vocabulary.
Yeah, so grammar is like vocabulary, pronunciation, yeah, or your ability to read in a particular way, your ability to what we would call scanning. So being able to look at the top of the text to the bottom very quickly to understand it. So when you talk about grammar, in the IELTS, there are no grammar questions, literal grammar questions.
No,
like you're not going to get a question saying, is this the present perfect? Or choose which sentence is in the past continuous. Yeah. No?
Yeah.
But do you need to know grammar?
You need to know grammar because of the meanings that grammar is there because it for the meanings. So you need to know if something is happening now or in the past or in the future.
So you need to be able to understand grammar, but this is almost like a skill.
Yeah. So it's a vocabulary. It's not a vocabulary test, but you need to know vocabulary to pass the test. It's not a grammar test. You need to know some grammar.
Yeah. When you look at the IELTS mark scheme, so the examiners have mark schemes and they mark you on different sections. And when you do that, you can see that they take into account your ability to use grammar, your ability to use what they call lexical resource, which is another way of saying words, or a fancier way of saying your ability to use vocabulary. So you need vocabulary, you need strong knowledge of grammar to get to higher scores, but there are no grammar questions. Okay.
Speaking of grammar, Celine. Hi, Celine. Thanks for joining. Where are you from? And she has a question. Please, could you explain more about phrasal verbs? It's a great question.
Yeah.
I feel like taking my glasses off for that question.
Yeah. So when Andrew is impressed by something that you've done, he will do this. So I'll do it for you. I'll say the question and then you can do it. So I'll say it again, Celine. Could you please explain more about phrasal verbs? Like that. Very good. Great question. Andrew, do you want to take over that one?
Phrasal verbs. Yeah, there's no.
Where's the board rubber?
There never was one.
I'm going to find a board rubber.
Tissues out on the next to the coffee. Next to the coffee machine.
Okay.
There's some tissues.
Okay, you don't have to whisper. I'm going to grab a tissue.
Phrasal verbs are words that are more than one word. So it could be 2 or 3 or 4 words, but altogether these 4 words have one meaning. So we're going to ask Sean for a phrasal verb when he comes in. The problem with phrasal verbs is you have to learn the meaning, because sometimes each word in the phrasal verb has a different meaning, but you have to take all of the words in the phrasal verb and it has one meaning. So Sean's going to write a phrasal verb on the board, hopefully.
Which one shall I do?
Do you have one in mind?
What's the most common? It's the easiest one to use. So I'm going to look up Most common phrasal verbs.
So some phrasal verbs are literal. That means word for word, they mean what they say.
Yeah.
So it would be good to have one that means what it says. Break down.
Should we do that?
Yeah, break down.
Yeah. Why don't we start with that one, just to explain what it is?
Okay. Is it here?
Phrasal? No.
She's right here.
So,
Break down.
yeah. So let's put this sentence. Let's put this into a context. Okay. So, I would say, Andrew, I'm sorry I'm late.
Can we quickly brainstorm together how many meanings breakdown can have? So, you can break down in your car.
Yep.
So, car breaks down. What other meaning? A person.
Yeah, a person can break down. So if they're stressed and they're having a lot of trouble, like Andrew, sometimes.
It's the same meaning, or not quite the same, is it?
It's not exactly the same. No.
Yeah.
So if a computer,
Yeah.
that would be like the car, yes, in a way.
I'm just brainstorming here. Your food, your stomach can break down food.
Yeah.
That's a.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking, if you're working on a very difficult task, you can break it down into sections. So to make a task easier.
Would that be slightly different because of the break it down? Yes, I think that would be
Right.
But you can break down a task.
Break down a task.
Yes.
Yeah.
But break it down, I think, would be.
Make a task easier by dividing it. Dividing it up is.
That's another phrasal verb, yeah.
So the thing is, you have to, unfortunately, you have to just learn these meanings.
Yeah. So I was going to do something. Do you have a? Can I borrow that? I'm going to rub this out. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So students really do not like phrasal verbs of English, in my experience.
Yeah, or irregular verbs.
Or irregular verbs. But every language has irregular verbs.
Irregular verbs.
Yeah, or I mean,
What do you need
even
that
I'm going to. So I was going to put. I still say hello. I just rubbed it
And
out.
it's still about IELTS, even though he rubbed it out.
Yeah. So you correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say in English, if you have verbs, can you angle that up? Yeah. So let's.
Maybe let's speak towards the.
Yeah. I'll speak towards the camera. Rubbing off all your good work. So
I am annoyed. I am annoyed.
he's furious. Yeah. So you can think of verbs in English as being of two types, I think. Yeah. So can you look at this?
Now Sean's annoyed.
I know. This is what happens. We get in each other's way. So verbs are of two types. You have single word verbs. And
Okay.
you have
Single word verbs. I've never heard that before. but he just means verbs, I think.
But it's important in English to see the distinction. Yeah? So, for example, what's a single word verb?
Get.
Yeah. So, in a sentence?
Let's say eat.
Yeah, get is a really awkward one.
Eat.
So, like, I eat
dinner.
I eat dinner. Okay?
Okay.
So, eat is the verb, and I eat dinner. Okay? But in English, there are what you would call multi-word verbs as well.
Can I guess what that means?
Yes.
More than one word?
Yes.
Ah.
Very good. Andrew has studied English.
I got a C1.
So when we think of multi-word verbs, you might think of phrasal verbs. Okay?
My car broke down this morning.
My car broke down this morning. Okay? So if I wrote that out, my car broke down this morning. Okay, so that's the sentence. Where's the verb?
Yeah.
I'm asking you. Come on.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
This.
No.
All right. Broke down.
Okay. So it's 2 words, yeah?
And
so we would call it a multi-word verb.
And
and it is a phrasal verb.
And it's the past tense of break down, which is a phrasal verb.
Yeah. Okay.
But in the IELTS, they will use synonyms. So if it says break down in your reading or your listening, the question might say, this car stopped working. They will use different ways of. Anyway, I'm overcomplicating it. But.
So we'll come back to synonyms in a moment because
I'm obsessed with synonyms. I'm going to get a tattoo. Yeah.
Of what?
Of a synonym. The word synonym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what that would look like. If you want Andrew to get a tattoo of a synonym, I think we should pay for him to do that. I would quite happily do that.
Sponsor me.
So other types of what you might call multi-word verbs are modal verbs, which you might have heard of.
Hi, Suad. How do you pronounce Mansour?
Listening to you pronounce names in a foreign language is.
Should you want that to be your job, your task?
I just think it's quite amusing to hear you do it.
It is good.
He's trying really hard. See, yeah, it's good to see your English teachers struggling with another language. Yeah. So yeah, we understand each other.
Yeah. How do you say your name? Sian?
That's how people spell it.
Right.
Yeah, my name is always spelled. It's Irish.
Okay.
So yeah, multi-word verbs like phrasal verbs, modal verbs. Can you give me an example of a modal verb?
Could.
Could. So I could.
And another phrasal verb is take off. So could you take off your clothes?
I would say no to this.
In the exams.
I could eat dinner. So here you have 2 verbs, could and eat. Okay? So phrasal verbs are one type of multi-word verb. But again, just to take it back to the IELTS, you're not going to have a test on phrasal verbs, but you will need to recognize them.
It's more advanced phrasal verbs. So sort of B2, C1, C2, B1. Not so much A2, B1. If you
maybe
need
some.
What do you need on the IELTS? Do you need to get a 5 or 6 or 7? Let us know. What score do you need to get? When is your test?
Yeah, and if you've come across phrasal verbs in a in a question, in a specific question, you can write the question to us. We would love to see it, love to hear it. We'd be very happy to look at the question. So you just have to type things out a little bit more. I hope this clarifies, explains the phrasal verbs a little bit.
We have a question from Jonathan. He says, will I run out of time in the reading if there is so much reading to do? And how can I do better at the reading?
Okay, so 2 questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for this. Get a photo, guys.
Yeah,
or just watch the video again.
Yeah. Or pause it afterwards.
It's very nice writing you've got.
Did you think?
Yeah.
My writing is... I get criticised for my board writing.
Oh, sorry.
Really? Yeah, it's really good.
Ah, he knows how to say a nice thing, Andrew. So yeah, any more questions? Please keep sending them in. But let's look at this one. So 2 questions.
Time.
How long is the reading?
He said, will I run out of time?
Will I run out of time? So how long do you have?
So 60 minutes, which is not a lot because you have 3 sections.
Yeah, 1 hour.
He says, how do I not run out of time? How can I improve?
So let's look at the first one. How do you not run out of time? What are the ways to do this?
Well, yeah, one way is, so section 1, you give yourself a time limit on each section. I think section 3, you give yourself 25 minutes. Why? Because it's a very long text. It's harder and more difficult, and more questions. It's bigger. It's worth more points. Section 1, I think it's 15 minutes, and that leaves, I think, 20 minutes. Is that right? Yeah. So that's one way. Give yourself a time limit on each section of discipline. Hi, sisters.
Good.
Good.
Like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I like that.
We are, yeah. The Language Sisters. That should have been our Facebook name.
Yeah,
The Language Sisters.
Yeah.
Give yourself a time limit on each section. Another way is to do not read the whole text in the reading. You read the question first, and then read the questions first.
Yeah, so the reason for doing that is, in some way, you want to be targeting the reading. You don't want to just be reading you don't want to just read the piece. You want to have the objective of answering the questions in mind. So if you read the questions, you almost know what you're looking for in the reading. You still have to read, but you're not just reading, I would say reading aimlessly, yeah, which means to read without a purpose.
Yeah.
So if you can read by actually looking and knowing what you're looking for, this will really help you. You also don't waste time reading a huge text without knowing what it is.
This is an example, and it's an emergency procedure, and it would be very boring to read that text if you didn't know why you were reading it. So you should read the questions first, and then scanning for keywords and synonyms to find your answers. But a lot of people do run out of time on the reading, and that's a shame because they can lose 10 points because they ran out of time. And this 10 points is so much on the That's changed. 10 points is so much on the IELTS that it can be the difference between getting what you need and not.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound simple as well, but really practice. Put a timer on your desk. Do practice questions and do questions where you are actually exposed to the test conditions. Yeah, so try to do mock tests where you sit them in 60 minutes and see how, you know, and don't have other things on in the background. Don't be distracted. Really practice on trying to stick within the times and to answering all the questions, because it's amazing how many people we meet who do the IELTS but don't really do any practice. They don't do any practice. Maybe they do one or two things, or they only practice the speaking, or they only practice a bit of writing.
I think, sorry, the other thing to do in the reading is don't take 5 minutes on one question, because every question is only 1 point. So if you're in section 1 and you take 5 minutes on one question, then you only have 10 minutes for the other 9 questions. So just, it's 1 point. If you don't know the answer, move on. If there's time at the end,
Go back.
go back.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things we're talking about, you notice we're not talking about English technique. We're talking about test technique.
Yeah.
And I think test technique is a practical, achievable skill. It's not a difficult thing to get better at. It's really, if you sit down and do practice tests, you will get better at test technique.
Yeah.
Like learning English can be more challenging as a skill. Are you leaving?
I'm not, but anger.
Wait.
Oh, Ange.
Yeah, we looked at. There was a second part to this question.
Yeah.
Did we answer it?
We did.
How do I get better?
How can I don't, yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question and gets into the kind of areas that you need. But in most cases, like I said, is it an English problem or is it a technique problem? And getting better at a section and timing particularly is a technique problem. And you can easily fix that with practice.
Yeah. Also, when you practice, it does improve your English as well. So that helps.
Yeah, usually they feed into each other. For people who've just joined us or don't know, so we're answering your IELTS questions today. I'm Sean, this is Andrew. And yeah, if you have any questions, anything you want to ask, anything you want to check, if you have samples of your work that you want us to look over, if you have some, if you, for example, have a question from a mock test or something, you can write it in to the box, into the comment section, and we will do our best to answer it.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Well, I'm going to show you a question, a real IELTS question, and see what happens.
So is this to answer?
I think that's more of a writing question. So we have, is it the pronunciation again? It's either Ange or Anger. I don't know, but hello. Thank you for your question. You write, give us some secrets about speaking. Brilliant question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have lots of ideas for this.
I had a secret. I wanted to share.
Please.
But no, you go first.
No. Please tell us your secret.
So this is very British, isn't it? This is a very British thing to do, where you say, no, you go first. And then you turn around and say,
oh no, please, after you.
I couldn't possibly after you.
Yeah.
Often, I don't know whether you've been to the UK before, to Britain, but if you go out in the street, you will just see people having this kind of interaction. After you.
Yeah, sorry, after you.
No, I couldn't possibly after you. So this is a very British thing. I should go back to the question. So speaking. So we were speaking about speaking, the speaking test, a little bit earlier. So the first thing again to say is, if you have a speaking test in the general or the academic, it is the same. Okay, so it doesn't matter which part, which exam you're taking. The two main things we were saying earlier were basically, if you do the speaking, is to be honest, because, and I say that for quite serious reasons, which is you don't want your brain to be occupied with making things up. Okay, maybe we can run through the speaking section.
So
Yeah,
because
so what does the speaking section involve? How long is it, Andrew?
it's about 15 minutes.
Yeah, in the thing they say 11 to 14 minutes. Okay, now in the speaking section, question 1, they're going to ask you questions on your family, on your job. It's like an informal chat for 4 to 5 minutes, and they are going to talk to you. Maybe I can give an example with Andrew when he stopped writing. Yeah, they're going to basically do an informal introduction with you. So it might be like, hi Andrew, how are you doing today?
Good, thanks.
You looking forward to your IELTS?
Very excited.
Yeah?
Mm.
You've been studying hard for this?
I've been studying for 6 months.
Yeah. So they might not ask you this, but informal chat. How did you get here today? Everything okay?
Yes, I got the train.
Oh, busy?
It was very busy, yes. I don't know why I've gone Russian.
Yeah. So Andrew's, we're just chatting informally. You're going to have a little chat. It's one-on-one with an examiner. Okay. So it's just you and an examiner. And then they're going to ask you about 2 topics, which are going to be something like work, family, your job in some way, maybe your experiences really broadly, maybe where you're from.
Yeah,
You
sorry,
something?
can we just get to the secrets?
Well, you can't just dive in. You've got to prepare the groundwork.
Anna, shall we
All right.
talk about the structure of the test, or do you just want
the secrets?
the secrets?
Okay.
I know he's pissed.
What secret?
He's annoyed.
What secret? You shouldn't swear in the IELTS test.
So part 1 is you're calling it an informal chat.
Yeah.
Everyday chat.
Yep. We did make a video about this, by the way. It's on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do subscribe and like our page if you haven't already, by the way.
And then part 2, you get 1 minute to prepare.
Yeah, you get 1 minute to prepare.
For a 2-minute monologue.
So this is where you're going to be speaking alone, not with the examiner. And part 3, you can't just put part 1 and part 2.
I like to
put a lot of tension in
okay,
there.
right.
Suspense.
Is about 4 or 5 minutes chat about topic from part 2.
So then you're going to have a chat with the examiner in part 3, and it's going to be with the examiner again, so not a monologue.
So one secret is that part 3 is almost the opposite of part 1, because part 1 is about 10 very direct questions to you, and then you give short answers. Yeah, not too long, because part 1's quite short, but you get 10 questions, so you want to give medium answers. But part 3, there's less questions, and you're talking more about things you don't know about, really, and you're trying to spontaneously get your ideas. So the secret for part 3, I would say, is to buy yourself time. What does that mean, Sean? By yourself.
Well, it's your secret. You tell me.
Okay. So you might get asked a question like, do you think museums are important in the modern day world, in part 3? And you think, what do I think about this? But you don't want to be silent while you're thinking.
Yeah, and you don't want to be doing things like, you don't want to be hesitating like that. So there are ways you can buy yourself time.
If you look on, one secret is just to say, I don't know much about museums. I haven't been to many in my life, but so these sentences, and then many of these, but and
in my opinion,
yeah.
Well, if you asked me that question, phrase it like this, where rather than saying, I think, you could just say instead, well, I think that my opinion on that is. So you don't put that sound, you don't leave a gap, you don't leave a silence, and you use, I would say they're almost like stock phrases that we use in English. Like you can hear me hesitating now to know what to say. And it's very difficult to do, but you can practice this by looking at phrases such as, I think, I consider, in my opinion.
And it's okay to say, I don't really have an opinion about that, but, and then you explain why you don't. You can still pass the test by not knowing anything about the topic, if you communicating clearly.
Yeah, the test is not about your ability to be interesting on a topic or even to talk about the topic that much. They're marking you on your language and your ability to express yourself in English. I had a very good question yesterday, which was, how far off topic can I go in the speaking? In the part 3, they were talking about particularly. And I think this is a really good question to answer, because if you look at the mark scheme on the IELTS, you actually do not get marked on the question,
right? Okay.
On whether you answered the question. It's about the language. And then I saw some, I looked this up, and I looked up some different things on the IELTS website, and I spoke to some other IELTS people. And they were basically saying, you can go off topic slightly. So for example, if we had this question about the museums, and in part 3, the question might be, do you think museums are important? You do have a flexibility there to go off the topic slightly. If you look at the question in part 2 with the museums, where they said, talk about the last time you went to a museum. Now you can go off topic here, because as long as you say, well, I haven't been to a museum, but when I think about museums, it makes me think about all the culture there is in London. I'm still answering the question, but I've gone off the topic slightly. And that's fine for the speaking question, as long as they can see you trying to answer the question.
You could say, I haven't been to a museum, but I want to go to a museum in the future because...
Yeah. So I think it's important, because people feel they freeze, we would say, during the test. They get stuck because they feel like they're not answering the question. But in the speaking, you have more freedom. It's not like the listening or the reading or the writing, where they do expect you to answer the task much more.
Yeah. Speaking is very. It's about being natural. Yeah. It's not mechanical, actually. Yeah.
It's not mechanical.
Whereas some other, like maybe the reading is more mechanical.
Yeah. And again, that's really what they're testing you for, your ability to spontaneously have conversations.
Mm.
That other question we had earlier, so we got a question about, can I use phrases should I learn phrases to use in speaking? Do you want to answer this one? As long as you answer it right.
Well, I think yes.
Yeah.
Should you learn phrases for the speaking? Yes, because when I'm speaking now, I'm using phrases that people have already said before thousands of times. Or does anyone know what signposting means? Signposting is where you tell the listener what you're doing. So it's like a sign. And if you say things like, has anyone seen Forrest Gump? So that's all I want to say about that. This is a good phrase, and it tells the listener, okay, you've finished speaking about this topic, and it gives them a cue. You're welcome. And anger, I'm going to say, you're welcome. If you say this, it tells the listener, you've finished speaking about this topic and you're ready for the next topic or another question. So I would say, I don't know what Siobhan thinks, but learning phrases is very healthy.
Yeah, I think I should sit down.
She says, thank you very much.
I think the problem with phrases, I think they can be, it depends what you mean by a phrase. And I think a lot of people try to learn scripts. And I think this is what they mean when they say phrases. So they try to write they look up sample speaking questions and they try to find every question that the examiner can ask them.
Okay.
And then they try to write responses. Now, English, written English, is very, very different to spoken English. And if you do this, you're going to have a problem because your language is going to sound forced and it's going to sound unnatural and not spontaneous. Like, it's like they really want you to respond to them in the speaking moment. Like, so I would say don't learn phrases or stock responses. Maybe is a better way. Mm. But learning phrases like phrasal verbs, for example, my car broke down this morning, or well, you're saying that, but my friend had a breakdown. Mm. Breakdown is a phrase. You learn it, you use it, and it becomes part of your natural language. But for speaking, I would really advise against learning chunks of passages or chunks of responses where you don't sound natural.
Mm. So in the writing, phrases are very important, especially academic writing. When you want to say things like firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally. But when you're speaking, if you just say firstly, secondly, thirdly, you can say finally and you can say secondly. But if you do it all the time, it sounds very mechanical. But in writing, it's okay because it makes it more clear.
Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it? Academic English is very different to written English. Written and spoken English are very different.
Okay.
And academic English is even more different from spoken English because it's very formal. I'm trying to think of for example, I might say the phrase, there's a couple of things to think about. So I'll say that again, but that's a very informal phrase. There are a couple of things to think about. But if I said that in an academic way, I would say something like, there are a number of factors we need to consider here. So this is a much more academic way of phrasing that sentence. Informally, let's think about that. You can be much more brief.
That's true.
Okay.
I was just wondering if anyone has any questions, because the best case scenario here is you ask us a live question. That's why we want to do it.
I mean, we should say something about that. The reason we are here is because we want, and the reason it's live rather than just sitting here and recording it is because we want you to write in with your things. So, and like I said, if you have example answers, especially for writing, that we can really, really help you. You will see that actually you can get a lot of good feedback from us on your actual written work.
Okay.
So
yes, we can give you feedback. Send us your answers, your answers.
I'm going to get a pen.
I have an essay question for you when you're ready.
For me?
Yeah.
Great.
Actually, yeah. But
you're smiling, which is a bad sign for me, I think.
It's just it's a typical IELTS essay question. I just like it. I don't know why.
So he's putting me on the spot.
On the spot.
On the spot.
What were you going to write?
Me? I'm just getting some more pens because you have them all.
I'm sure.
You won't let me have the pens, right? I have to get my own.
Right now, but now you have more than me. So.
Exactly.
Different colours are good. Right. What did you want to write?
I didn't want to write anything. I just wanted to have a pen in case I needed to write.
Weirdo.
It's a lot of conflict.
Normally, you get up if you get up to get a pen, it's because you need it. I'm just saying.
I was preparing myself.
Hashtag just saying. Right. You look like you're going to write something.
Are you
That's
spraying?
so annoying.
You're spraying.
Are you spraying? No, I look like. I look like I'm going to spray.
Andrew is what you would call paranoid. Paranoid is when you think people are doing things, but they're not.
I'm sorry, but when someone has 3 pens in their hand, probably they're going to write something.
Look, you're looking at your... But really, I'm just here to maybe write something if I need to, if you send us a question. So, Andrew is now going to write a... what question is it?
It's an essay, writing.
So it's a task 2. It's a task 2 question from the writing section. Is it academic or general?
I think it's general.
It's you
general.
think it's general.
It's general.
It's general. He doesn't know.
It's general.
I haven't seen this question, so this is live. Who knows what's going to happen?
Right. It's quite a long question, and I need to get it from the computer. So,
okay.
Okay.
Well,
that's a nice question as well. What happens if I have no ideas in the essay? But it's a bit like the speaking one. Okay, so the question is, I'm going to read it out and then I'm going to write it. IELTS essay. So writing. Part 2. Essay. Question. I'm going to read this out. So, okay, do we have any more questions? Hello, Romana.
Hello, Romana. That's the easiest one to pronounce for you
today. If it's correct, could be Romana. Hi. So, typical IELTS question.
I'm going to write this out.
Okay.
So.
Some people think that that spending a lot on wedding parties, birthday parties, is just a waste of money.
Stop.
Discuss for and against. Yeah.
Discuss.
Both sides of the opinion. So, if I move out of the way,
Can they see?
no, not really.
Can't see anything?
They can see it if we don't.
Discuss both sides of the opinion, for and against.
Yeah.
Okay,
So let's just move out of the way for a second.
so let's read it out.
Yeah.
Some people think that spending... What?
You can get in a little.
I can see. Some people think that spending a lot on wedding parties, birthday parties, is just a waste of money. Discuss both sides of the opinion, for and against. Okay.
So, would you please save this live? Yeah, I think it saves
Yes.
automatically.
Mhm.
Would you please save this live? Yeah.
Yeah. We will save it.
How do I pronounce your name? Where are you from? Okay.
So, did you want me to answer this somehow?
We could get a little brainstorm going on.
Yeah, let's get some ideas. So, for
Technique.
example, let me...
First of all, yeah, the technique. The exam technique, the first thing you would do is,
yeah.
the word begins with B.
So we've been working with IELTS students today and this week. And one of the ways, a lot of people are scared, aren't they, about these types of questions? Like the writing is usually the area most people are scared of or frightened of answering. So one of the ways I try to make them feel less scared, I would say, is by basically doing the answer verbally first. So in the room with the students, I might say to them, okay, let's read the question together, first of all, and say, some people think that spending a lot on wedding parties is a waste of money. Discuss both sides of opinions. So I would ask the question to the class, why are wedding parties a waste of money?
Well, can we just talk about technique? So the first thing you would do probably is underline the key words. Some people do this. So some people, I mean, it's all important.
Let's use a different color.
Right. So spending a lot.
Yeah.
So spending a lot, that means, what does that mean? It means money, right? So parties, waste of money.
So why did you pick, I think, because you've just picked these, why did you pick those phrases? Because that would be a very...
I haven't finished. Both sides. So it's telling me to actually talk both sides, even though maybe I don't want to. Maybe I agree. Yeah. Why did I pick these? Because if it doesn't say everyone. So I want to use some people in my answer.
So this is what we would call a quantifier phrase, yeah? Some people, whenever you see that phrase in a question like this, it's kind of just saying, generally, some people might say.
I mean, in academic English, the main problem of brainstorming that takes most of my time. From Algeria.
From Algeria. Great, so you've got an answer to that question. So Andrew is basically looking here at the first thing you need to do is analyze the question. Yeah. Now, brainstorming, we're going to come on to in a moment. So let's answer this. I was asking him why he's highlighted some phrases.
Yeah, because when I'm answering, I want to keep looking at the question to check, am I really answering the question? And it just, for me, it helps me quickly look at the question again and say, okay, I didn't talk about this or this, or why would you highlight keywords?
For me, it's about you have to kind of learn the skill of working out what the opinion is in here, because often this question is about an opinion, yes?
Mhm.
I mean, it almost always is. So I need to find the opinion. So spending a lot, so this is a key verb for me, and the verbs often tell you what the action of the sentence is. So spending a lot tells me a lot of money. So again, it's a quantifier phrase. On wedding parties, birthday parties. So I'm now thinking, okay, so the verb is action of spending a lot of money on parties and wedding parties and birthday parties, okay? And then what is the opinion? It's that it is just a waste of money. So that's why I think Andrew highlighted this part, okay? So now I know the opinion. The opinion is some people think that spending a lot of money on parties is actually a waste of money. Now, I can think, because the question says discuss both sides, so this is really important, not one side, both sides. I now have to just think for brainstorming, okay, what are the ideas for and what are the ideas against? Why would I think this is true? Why do I not think it's true?
So we have a comment here from Romana, and the main problem of brainstorming is that it takes most of my time. Does it really? If you say it does, I believe you, but...
So this is going back to what I was saying with the verbal thing. I try to do it with the class verbally, because like if I just say to Andrew, why might birthday parties, wedding parties, spending a lot of money be a waste?
I don't know.
Well, I would say I was at a wedding earlier last year, and they spent a huge amount of money on it. Like I'm talking, they could have probably purchased a quarter of a house for the money they put on the wedding. So one reason you might say it's a waste of money is because after one day you have lost all this money, or you've spent all this money, and you could have put it on something better. So one reason you could say it's a waste of money and agree with this opinion, I would say, is because that money is just really one big party.
Okay, so we're talking about brainstorming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when you just asked me the question, I said, I don't know, because I'm trying to answer it instantly, and we recommend, even though that Romana says it takes a lot of time, it shouldn't. With yourself, do a brainstorm. So you're just making a quick list. Okay, so as you were saying, Sean, sorry, you were saying that you could spend the money on other things. I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, I think that's one thing people might say.
So quickly brainstorm with yourself. It's so important. Spend money.
And I would separate them for and against.
Okay, so for other things.
You could spend money on other things really quick. Okay, what else could we do?
What else? So it's a waste of money. You could, maybe you could open this out. Holiday. What else?
Maybe I would say more and more people, like it's like in the UK, for example, again, so I'm using my own experience here. Weddings are treated like a business. So again, in some ways, I could argue it's too commercial. That's another reason. This is my own opinion again. And I'm really looking for what I think about this topic. Again, I'm looking at myself. I don't really need to think that much. I'm just kind of thinking. So we have two reasons, at least. And this one is quite long, the first one, the spending money on other things. Anything else? I mean, what would you say?
Spending a lot of money. See, I keep having to look at the question again. So that when I've underlined the words, that helps. Some people spending a lot. It's a waste of money.
Something to do with birthday parties?
Okay, one thing it said, I'm not being sexist or anything, but as a man, this is one day of your, it's what, I know it's a very important day, but it's one day that you're spending a lot of money on when you could have more days. So it's only one day. And so if it's a birthday, or somebody might get spoiled. So if you spend a lot of money on a birthday party, then the next year they expect you to do it again.
But I think, yeah, like you say, men and women would both feel this way. Yeah.
Well,
I would say.
of course.
So I think this idea is more about, is it really worth all the effort? Because in a way, it's not just one day, because what happens is it takes, people spend years planning them, and so in some ways it's one day's party, but it takes up a huge portion of your life. And it also,
not your birthday.
in some ways, people do spend time preparing them.
40th, yeah, okay. Got me.
But there's a focus, in a way, you could say it's putting the focus not on the relationship, but on having a party. So this could be, like you say, exploited. But if we just stick with, we have 3 reasons. It's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough.
I was going to write another one.
But we don't need to.
Superficial.
Okay. So we've got 3 points, and that's enough for what you need to do. And then against. So I think this one is easier to come up with things against it. Yeah. So some people might say, So
we're going to do a brainstorm again. In the exam, do a brainstorm with yourself. It's worth spending the 3 or 4 minutes brainstorming, rather than writing. If you're writing, then you get an idea halfway. That's more difficult to put.
It is, because also, when you really, ideally in the writing, you should have an introduction, 2 paragraphs, and a conclusion. And your introduction ideally should say what you're going to argue at the end, ideally. And if you don't know what you're going to argue because you haven't thought of everything, you're going to end up, you're not going to be able to write an introduction with your argument.
Well, there's an argument you should write the introduction last.
But you can't do that in a written paper, could you?
Well, you should plan the task on notes. They give you note paper to actually plan the structure of your answer. And you're writing with pencil and an eraser, so there are opportunities to go back. Yeah,
I mean, it could be your preference. I wouldn't do that myself. I don't know, would you write that way? Like, you would have to rub out?
I would plan each paragraph. So I have 1 paragraph for 4, 1 against, and an introduction and conclusion. And I might leave space to write the introduction, to come back and write that at the start.
But you should still know the reasons, really, before you write.
Yeah.
It'll be easier.
Yeah.
I think if you know where you're going, again, it's a bit like why in the listening and the reading, we would recommend you read the thing first, or read the questions first, because you know what you're looking for. And if you know what your argument is, because you've brainstormed everything, then it's there ready for you. Arguments against.
So, Angel, this pronunciation of, what's the arguments against? So why should you spend a lot? Because it's only one day. You see, it's the same argument, but 4 this time. Because you only get married once, right? Maybe not. Because it's only one day.
Well, you didn't.
Oh, there's Russian voice. Because it is once in a lifetime, maybe. Like your 40th birthday, that only happens once. Or your wedding maybe only happens 6 times. So you want to spend all the money on it, why not? So I'm using the same argument.
Yeah, but the same argument works both ways. So you say, because it's once in a lifetime. Chance to be with all your family. Yeah?
What? Okay.
Yeah, you don't like this reason? And Andrew's family, he doesn't want to spend time with them, maybe?
I've never had a reunion.
Yeah. So yeah, a chance to be with all your family that you very rarely see.
But if you don't spend money, you can still be with your family.
That's true. That is what we would call a counter argument. Yeah. So they don't need to get into this level
I
of
don't like
complexity.
Chance to be with family. I don't get it.
It's
But
a real reason.
as long
Don't
as
listen to him.
he just justifies his answer, then
Yeah.
I still don't like it.
He's trying to make me justify it because in some way what he's trying to show you is you need to justify your answer.
I'm saying that you don't need money to be with your family. It's free, but whatever.
But unless there's a special occasion, arguably, families will never get together. Like if you turn around in the UK and say, let's all get together for the day, families will be very reluctant to do this.
No, if I say it's my
It's
my birthday, I've not spent any money on it. You have to buy your own beer. You have to buy your own food. But it is my birthday. Are you coming? Do you want to come? And they were like, they would
say no to Andrew. But
if I said it's free food and drink all night, I've spent a lot of money, but do you want to come to my birthday? They were more likely to say yes, you think?
I don't know. I stopped listening to you. So
You really did, didn't you? You have to go.
I have to listen to the live video again.
Sean will go, yeah.
So another argument against, really quick. Let's say
Well, that helps. You say really quick.
put the pressure. I would say,
The wedding photos will last.
yeah. What about religious reasons?
Nothing to do with money.
No, but you could say it's worth the money because partly you're paying for like a religious experience in some way. No, you don't like that one?
I don't understand it again. I
Um,
hope I'm not marking your paper.
yeah,
I think
it's a harsh mark.
something like the wedding photos will last you all of your life. So
But I could just turn around to you and say, you can take photos at any occasion.
no, they've got to be good though, haven't they?
Yeah, but you can pay for a good photographer at any time. It's the same thing.
I don't understand.
What do you think?
Maybe it's 2 enough?
2 might be enough, but
Because you only have 250 words. To make it more memorable,
yeah.
but it's kind of like that one. But
Yeah, once in a lifetime. I mean, when I was at a wedding, and I actually said this to some people, they were really they were just like, I would rather, my dream is to have a wedding. So it's almost like a psychological thing. For me, it was strange, but I talked to men and women who said the same thing to me. So it was completely, it was surprising. And also in some cultures, that's the thing, cultural differences. Like I was at an Indian wedding, and there it is a huge...
He always talks about this Indian wedding.
Exactly, because I've only been to 2 weddings in my life. One Indian, one
So he
Welsh.
has a great pool of knowledge.
I think this is a good reason.
Can you judge all Indian weddings? Sorry, what were you going to say about Indian
Cultural factors. So,
What's that got to do with money?
well, for them, spending money is not a waste because it's a celebration.
Okay, good answer.
Okay, so I think you could definitely go here. And now you have basically doing that verbally in the class. You have your arguments for, have your arguments against, and then which one do you agree with? So Andrew, for you, is it a waste of money or not overall?
I don't think I have to decide now. I can decide in my conclusion.
Yeah, so I'm asking you for your conclusion.
All right, but
what would you say?
I want to talk about what would you do after brainstorming.
Oh, okay.
And then you would make a plan. So, plan structure. So you might say, I want 4 paragraphs. Intro, conclusion, and then 4, it's very small this.
So yeah,
And
the
again,
structure he's talking about, you've got, so let me point to it. So you've got 4 paragraphs basically. An introduction, still there. Introduction, the arguments for, the arguments against in the 3rd paragraph, and then a conclusion. So
What would your conclusion be, just to give an example here?
Okay, I think I'm not going to give just one conclusion. It's going to be, my answer will be, it depends how much you spend. Because I do agree that you should spend some money on that, but not too much. So like a lot of conclusions, it will be depends on your situation. Generally, I don't agree actually. So
You don't think it's a waste of money?
I do think it's a waste of money
Right.
if it's a certain amount of money. But I don't think it's a waste of money if it's not too much. So fundamentally, because it's got the word a lot, I am going to say yes, it's a waste of money because it says a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm taking the key word from the question.
Yeah. So you agree?
What do you think?
I would say, yeah, I think people do spend too much money as well. I would be on that side.
Some people definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So taking the key word, some people. If it said everyone, then
The thing is, waste is a very subjective word, really, isn't it, as well? And say, like, what is waste for one person is not for another, you know, especially in circumstance like this.
Let's talk about, let's say you read this question in the exam and you've never seen this word before and you don't know what it means. What can you do? Just have a think about that.
What can you do?
So, like when you're learning vocabulary as a child in your own language, you look at the context of the whole thing. So, you know, it's talking about money, and
A lot gives you a clue. So they're spending a lot.
that gives you a little clue as well.
But it's it's hard if you don't know this word, no?
It is hard, but this gives it a bit of negativity, just a slight bit of negativity.
And if you know, discuss both sides of the opinion is here. You know that it's going to be a positive opinion and a negative opinion. At a guess, probably. So there are little hints in there that you can follow. Spending a lot.
Yeah. So look at the whole sentence and try and guess. It's very important because in the exam you can't have a dictionary, so you have to try and guess the meaning. And if you guess wrong, it's still fine because you might have put waste in the wrong. You might think it's a good thing, but as long as you if you're making good sentences and using a range of vocabulary, you can still pass, even if you have the wrong meaning.
Yeah, you will still get marks and everything.
Marks for grammar.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're coming up to the end, aren't we?
Sean's very strict with time. He doesn't. Yeah,
Of course.
he doesn't want to do 2 hours.
Punctual. They called me Mr. Gradgrind when I was growing up.
I don't know what that means.
It's a Charles Dickens character
Okay.
who is symbolic of industrial Victorian factory owners
Okay.
in hard times. Good book to read. Yeah?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so I think, if you have any questions, just to finish up, we are here. Andrew, is there anything you want to add?
I'm just going to leave it 2 minutes to see if anyone's got it, but I know you need to go.
I want to say thank you, first of all, for everyone who listened and all the likes we've got. We really appreciate it. And it was some of the questions we've had have been really, really great.
I think the best thing for us, our favourite thing, is when you ask the questions, because we can really talk about your question. It's better than if we just talk, because we don't know how you feel. So I love answering your questions because it's coming from a real person somewhere in the world.
Yeah. And before the next session, which is tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
We do send us at goodbadenglish@gmail.com. Maybe we can write that in the box. Send us your questions. And if you have samples of work, send them in. Like if you have written samples, I can put sentences up and we can maybe annotate, show you some changes, make some different things. And yeah, anything you have, any questions, if you have genuine questions from mock exams that you struggled with, write them up and send them to us, and we can talk about them.
Yeah, send us your writing, your practice questions.
Yeah. But thank you very much for tuning in, and yeah, it was a great pleasure. And thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for watching. Thank you, Sean.
Take care.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Okay, we're still on air.